Hey everyone, it's Michael Goosebumps fan. I hope you're doing well today. I'm gonna let you know ahead up, beginning of this video, I probably look a little rough, my eyes and stuff. Maybe not as severely as usual, because of allergy season. Man, we went to my wife's dad's house, my father-in-law's house, and we got back, and for whatever reason, my allergies are just freaking out tonight. I don't know if it had something to do with being over there or what. They're doing a lot of kind of cleaning and stuff, so there's a lot of dust floating around in there. Man, oh man. I feel like, I don't know, I just feel off tonight with all the allergies. Anyway, I wanted to preface this whole review with that, even though it has nothing to do with the review. A friend of mine who contacted me a while back, like a year ago, was talking about how he had written his own Thing Like Goosebumps book. Of course, this is a Things Like Goosebumps video, from what you can tell from the title. I have wanted to read this book. There's two of them at this current point. I think he's working on a third right now. I've wanted to read this book for a while. I finally got my hands on both of the first two books, and I've just been kind of sitting on them. I took my break after Christmas time and just kind of relaxed, and came back at the end of February of this year. And I kind of just wanted to take my time getting back into Goosebumps and enjoying the books and whatnot, and then every once in a while do a Thing Like Goosebumps video, just to take a break from a Goosebumps book, read something different. And this one I decided to pick up because, again, my friend wrote this. I didn't know him until I started this channel and stuff. It wasn't anything like that. The author's name is C.S. James. I know him as Chris. And his book is Twisted Books to Leave You Shook, #1, Fright Filter. This was so much fun, dude. This was so much fun. I will tell you up front. My Things Like Goosebumps segment on my channel is typically dedicated to things that feel like Goosebumps, and then I kind of talk about the quality and I review them and rate them and whatnot, like I typically do for a regular Goosebumps book review, just to kind of give you my thoughts on something if you wanted me to talk about something that's kind of in that vein. There's a lot of stuff out there that feels like Goosebumps, whether it be the Shivers books or whether it be Monster House, the old movie from the early 2000s. There's a lot of stuff out there that feels like Goosebumps, and a lot of the time I think they get it right, and then there are sometimes they get them wrong. I will tell you this, if ever there was a person, and I'm not saying this just because Chris is my friend, if there was ever a person that I think if Stein died tomorrow, and somebody came to me from Scholastic and recommended the replacement for R.L. Stein to write Goosebumps, Chris would be my guy. I would pick Chris in a heartbeat just because of this book. This is the only book of his I've read out of the two. The second book I'm even more excited for. It's called Toy Horror Story. That sounds awesome. I love toys coming to life stories. Super stoked about that. Chris manages to blend his own kind of beginning writer style. I don't know if he wrote anything before this, but it feels like a first-time book, but it's a good first-time book, you know? Maybe somebody who's been experimenting with books for a while now and has really finally finished their first middle-grade type book, and it is a middle-grade book, like Goosebumps. This unmistakably feels so much like a Goosebumps book. Everything from the kind of goofier, sillier aspect of the story and the premise, which I'll get to that in a moment, to the actual feel of the story, the way it's told, the kind of humor that's throughout the book. It doesn't feel like it's written exactly like an R.L. Stein type of clone, you know? But it just, something about this book just rubbed me the right way, dude. I really dig the book. I really recommend it if you haven't read it before. To get into the story, there's another book series out there that's kind of like a thing like Goosebumps. I talked about the first book here on the channel. It's called Fright Vision, and Fright Vision's pretty popular. It's getting kind of a name for itself out in the independent community, the indie community, if you will. And that guy's doing great. Culver Krantz? I'm sorry, I'm so bad with names. I'm so bad with the author names specifically. That particular writer is doing a great job with his books, the Fright Vision books. I've only read the first one, The Cursed Coin. It was solid. I really enjoyed it. I like his writing style as well. I think he really hits that R.L. Stein tone. And Chris really gets that here, dude. He really, really just hits that Steinish tone so well. I think there's a book in the Fright Vision series. I could be wrong. I believe there was a book in the Fright Vision series that's very similar to this premise. I don't know which one came out first. It doesn't really matter because I'm sure both of the books are very different for the most part. One of the things I don't like, and I talked to Chris about this when I contacted him the other day telling him I was reading the book, I typically don't like technology-focused books in Goosebumps or otherwise. I'm just not a fan of that. I'm not a big fan of the whole taking modern cell phones and stuff and putting them in a horror story for kids. I usually don't like that. I think Goosebumps and Stein specifically avoids that because it's hard to come up with a concept that actually works or is fun to do. I haven't read the Fright Vision book that I think does the story, but I'm gonna tell you right now, C.S. James, he hit this out of the park, dude. Out of the park. It is such a good read. I had a blast reading this, dude. It was such a great kind of taking a break from Goosebumps filler book to review on the channel. I highly recommend this. Getting to the premise, though, after like 5 minutes of rambling on about nothing, again, remind you, the allergies, man. It makes my whole head go everywhere. Of course, from the premise and the cover here, which, by the way, I really love these covers. Girl has like a lizard arm and stuff, and she's holding a cell phone, taking a selfie, Fright filter. This book is kind of based around kids obsessing over their cell phones, but there's also themes and whatnot to this book that you don't typically get from Goosebumps. You don't typically have a kind of heart and soul to Goosebumps books. As much as I love them, you don't. They're usually based around R.L. Stine's very clever humor, or just plain up scares sometimes. And this is a very good example of somebody who had ideas that came out of the story naturally. Naturally. That's how you write a story. That's how you write a smart kid's book or middle grade book. That's how you do it. You write it, and then as themes come out, let them blossom, tell the story that way. Don't go into a book specifically trying to hit a point. This is a problem that many SJWs get wrong. Many folks in general writing books that try to put either a political message in them for adult books or anything like that, they typically get it wrong because they don't let it naturally blossom from the story. They try to force it into the story and it doesn't work. It comes across wrong. C.S. James doesn't do that, and that's what very much impressed me about this book. Chris just hit this out of the park, dude. Basically, a girl who is kind of a decent friend type person. She has a friend who is just awful. Just an awful kid, just a mean-spirited girl. And that mean-spirited girl also kind of picks arguments over this one girl named Patty in their class who may or may not be kind of poor, you know? She doesn't really wear like the best clothes or designer clothes or anything like that. She just kind of comes to school with like cute blue shirts that have like a pig on it, you know, because she loves pet pigs and stuff. This story very much focuses on how those two main girls, not always, it's mostly just focused on our main character, but that other girl too, being such an awful person to that young girl, Patty, they decide they're going to mess with Instagram type filters on their phones for whatever apps they have out there. And you know the kind of filters I'm talking about. You go on Instagram or whatever and you kind of push on your face on the screen and it like brings up, you could have like Super Saiyan hair or like butterflies over your eyeballs, or you know, have your mouth be your eyeballs, that kind of weird stuff like that. Put glasses digitally on your face. It's really cool. You'd move your head around, it kind of follows your head movements. Really scary and interesting technology at the same time. What I loved about this book is the themes about people and how they are so willing to be awful about other people and to other people on the internet. And that's not a big prominent theme in here, but it's kind of the beginnings of the story, what we get, and the heart and soul of the story. They decide to try to take a picture of that one girl, Patty, with a pig face for the filter while she's wearing her pig shirt. But as soon as they get ready to post it, our main character has her phone grabbed out of her hand by her teacher. And she's just like, look, I'm just going to hold on to your phone. You can get it back tomorrow or whenever. And things keep kind of getting delayed and so on and so on. And people in that class are kind of just mean to Patty, the little girl that's getting bullied all the time anyway. Now, as the day goes on, the kids are kind of, the main character and her mean little best friend girl, the just mean girl in school, those two are going to, I think they're going to get on their bus or something like that. And they pass that girl Patty, the one that they were going to bully, and put the picture of her with a pig face online. And the mean best friend knocks her books out of her hand, and when their main character and her mean best friend are on their school bus leaving, they look out the window and they can see this girl mumbling words under her breath to the school bus as she watches it drive away. And our main character kind of gets a little nervous about that. Now, the next day, she starts messing with her phone, I believe, or the night before? I think it's the night before. She's messing with filters on her phone, again, on kind of like an Instagram-type app. And she happens to select one of the first faces, and it's like a Creature from the Black Lagoon type thing. The picture from the cover here of like the one mutant arm and like the green messed up face, kind of a fishy type thing, you know, again, Creature from the Black Lagoon. They even make a joke in here about her being the she-creature from the Black Lagoon. I thought that was very clever. I actually laughed out loud about that. There's quite a few jokes in here I actually laughed out loud at. That's not super common for me. I'm not a big laugher out loud when I read books, or even scared when I read books, you know? And when Stein can do it, or when, in this case, C.S. James does it, it kind of shocked me. I was kind of surprised how much I actually laughed reading this book. This book gets that feeling of that small adventure within a town, but also the more horrific aspects. There can be body horror and stuff in here, which there is, and it works really well in this story. All of those things come together so well, dude, and just they meld into such a fun, crazy story because these filters, mainly our main character, that night after she messes with those filters and gets that one of the creature from the Black Lagoon looking design, she goes to bed, she wakes up the next morning, and she actually has that on her face, like when she looks in the mirror. So it already probably sounds like a Goosebumps book to you guys. And it feels like a Goosebumps book, dude. It's so much fun, her trying to figure out this whole situation of this mystery of what's going on, if Patty was involved with this. And again, I'm not a spoiler channel. I try to keep things spoiler-free for the most part. The book flies by. It absolutely flies by. Now, the thing is, that main story, I loved it. I thought it was such a blast. I had a good, fun time with it. I think overall, it was a perfect story. I really do enjoy it. I think that the heart there, it actually made me feel something by the end of the book. Not just happiness, not just satisfaction for enjoying another fun story, but there's a heartfelt moment with our main character at one point that was just so good. It was so good. I also like the fact that you have underutilized monsters nowadays in this book. So for example, witches, jack-o'-lantern heads, stuff like that, vampires, they have stuff like that in here, werewolves, you know? Those kinds of things are not really utilized all the time here lately in Goosebumps or anything else that I read. Even adult literature, there's not really anything like that in like a Stephen King book anymore. And I love that kind of thing. I miss that kind of thing. That kind of stuff is in here. And it's not utilized in a bad way. It's very much fitting for this story with the filters and stuff. I don't like technology-focused stories. The last thing I wanted to do, honestly, and I told Chris this too, I was so much more excited for book 2, Toy Horror Story, the whole Toy Story horror story type thing. I was so much more excited for book number 2, but I wanted to start with this and read the books in order and kind of see how Chris progresses as a writer. I'm glad I did, because he says the Toy Horror Story is better than this one. If it is, I'd be surprised. I really would be, because this is really good. From what I understand, this is his first book. I could be wrong. From what I understand, this is his first book. You'd be surprised when I talk to him about self-publishing stuff. But this is self-published too, in case you don't know. The quality on that's fantastic. I usually worry about that when I buy self-published stuff. This is just great. It looks great. It feels great. It feels like a very sturdy book. I love the cover design. I think the cover art's great too. The formatting on the inside, there's not like a bunch of like misspellings and stuff. There's nothing like that. It's actually very well put together, very well formatted. You don't really see that in a whole lot of self-published Goosebumps type books. Fright Vision and this are really well put together, I think. You would be shocked if you talked to Chris, the author, about how much money and time that he puts into this for just this book. The thing is, I want to talk about too. I'm sorry for this being such a longer review. I just really wanted to be thorough about this because I enjoyed this so much. When I see indie writers do something so special, I really like to spend time on it in a video and not really rush through it, because I want to be thorough and I want people to understand how much I admire that person for what they put out into the world. The main story is about 124 pages, and that's pretty cool. I mean, I really genuinely did not have any complaints about that. I don't know if any of you guys have read this book, anybody who's been subscribed to my channel for a while, or if you find your way to the channel today. I don't know if you've read this book, or the sequel. Not the sequel, but the second book in the series, Toy Horror Story. But I recommend them immediately, honestly. What I thought was very interesting is after you finish that main story from C.S. James, there is a short story that's about 15 pages, I think. Yeah, roughly. It's called It Started With an Itch by Sean Elwood. Now, this story, again, is its own thing. It's not tied to that first story. And I think this is kind of an interesting thing, kind of like the horror books, or Horrorland books from Goosebumps, where they try to do something different. They had the first 100 pages of the book being its own story. It's kind of rushed. Pacing's really choppy and whatnot. Didn't really like that about most of those. But the last, 30 or 40 pages tie into a bigger overarching story that you have to read each Horrorland book in order to get through that. I like the idea of this different twist on just, instead of just having your Goosebumps book that you've made as a knockoff, you have a short story thrown in there from a co-author type. Now, Sean Elwood, I think his writing is good. I think his style is good. I don't really know anything about the guy. I haven't really read anything else from him, but I like in this story his writing style. It started with an itch. I think the story idea is good. I think that it's a little... The theme is not as well executed here as it is in C.S. James' full novel before that, you know? And that's not to crash on Sean Elwood. I mean, he did a good job with the story. I really like the creativity of this story. Basically, a girl is kind of in the mall, and she's having acne issues and stuff. She walks across a lady named Valerie, and Valerie tells her, like, hey, I have this little jar of, like, makeup cream type stuff to put on your face. It's called Within. And it's going along that theme of beauty is within the let me try that again. Beauty is within the eye of the beholder. Yeah, that whole line. It's named after that. That's why it's called Within. And she gives the main girl in that story a free little jar of that makeup acne cream stuff. And as she puts it on, more horrific things start to happen to her acne. And it's pretty gory, dude. I'm not going to lie. And then it just, towards the last like couple of pages, it starts pressing this theme into people. And I'm like, that's a great example of somebody not doing what C.S. James clearly did about writing a story, letting the natural themes kind of come out. Or at least seemingly so. It very much came across as, I'm going to write a theme just like this, and the story built around that theme, you know? And I'm not trying to trash on Sean Elwood. The story is entertaining. It's just a little what's the word? I don't want to say preachy, but I guess that's the word in context here. I just didn't really like it. It was okay. It kind of just, after that really great story from C.S. James, I feel like that one kind of brings it down a little bit, but that's not saying Sean Elwood's a bad writer. I'm sure he could do something great. Give him his own full-fledged Goosebumps kind of type book like this. I'd be willing to bet he'd do something really special with it. I really bet he probably would. But yeah, that's really the only complaint I have, is that short story being kind of lackluster compared to the main novel. Dude, I'm telling you, if you haven't read, and again, I'm a little iffy on this title. I forgot to mention this part. I can never for the life of me get this title right. Twisted Books to Leave You Shook. I could never get that title down. I wish it was just called, like, Shook, you know? Maybe I'm wrong for feeling that way, but I feel like it was just needed to be called that or something else. I get it, we're going for a modern audience. Kids are using words like shook, you know? But, I'm gonna tell you, man, Twisted Books to Leave You Shook #1, Fright Filter. I feel like I made a whole advertisement in this review for this book, but I'm telling you, man, this is really good. I was very impressed with this. I'm the type of person that I don't like taking books with me, especially my Goosebumps books, out in public in my car when I go to work or something because of the weather. I don't want it to possibly rain in my car and get on them, or the sun to beam down in there and kind of destroy the coloring on the books. I don't like that. I like to preserve my stuff. My wife knows that. I'm a nutcase when it comes to stuff like that. But this is a book that I enjoyed so much that I would not take it with me in my car to work because I didn't want it to get ruined. That's how picky I was with how much I loved this book. And yeah, I dare use the word loved. I really, really enjoyed this book so much, man. I can't even explain it to you. I don't even know what it is exactly that made it stand out so different from a Goosebumps book. It might have been that little piece of heart to the story. It's kind of like if you had the Polar Express movie and didn't have, like, at the ending with the bells. You know, it just adds this eeriness and this hauntingness to that story. That's kind of how this was. The climax of the story, confronting the villain of the story, was just fun. It was really fun. Kind of reminds me of Split, if you've seen Split, the James McAvoy movie, the second Unbreakable movie. Anyway, Twisted Books to Leave You Shook #1, Fright Filter. Chris, seriously, man, I really hope that people that watch my videos and watch this one in particular will take my advice and pick up a copy of this. You can buy it on Amazon. I don't remember how much it was. It was not expensive. I think it was about the same price as a Goosebumps book, from what I remember. You guys are going to miss out if you don't pick up this book. Again, I can't speak for the second one, Toy Horror Story, but he says it's better than this book, and I'd be surprised, because this is a treat, dude. If you like those more humorous style Goosebumps books that have a little body horror and stuff, a lot of people like stuff like I Live in Your Basement. I haven't read that yet, but a lot of people say that about that book. If you like stuff like that, you will love this book, dude. I'm promising you, you will love it. It is such a blast. I don't even have words for it. And again, I enjoyed that first Fright Vision book, but to have something like this that just feels different, I don't know what it is. It feels so much like how Fright Vision felt like a Stein book. The humor's there, everything else, I don't know how to explain it. It feels so like it's just such a good book. I really dug this. I love the utilization of the filters. I was not excited about that at all. Chris knows that. But man, I was wrong. I was really, really wrong, and I really dug this. If it weren't for that last short story, this would have been a really, really perfect rating. Overall, when it comes to this book, if I had to rate it on a 5-star basis, I'd give it a 4 out of 5, but it's such a high 4 out of 5, it might as well be a 5 out of 5. If you bought this book and just read the main novel and not the Sean Elwood short story, It Started With an Itch, again, I'm not trying to trash you, Sean, I promise you. Please don't get mad about that. I know I don't talk to you, I've never met you before, but still, it's not to trash you, it's that you're clearly a good writer. It's just you need to do something of your own, I guess. I guess 15 pages isn't really the best time to write a short story for kids. Not the right amount of page space or something like that. But that story was not at the top of your tier, Sean. I can promise you're going to do better than that in the future if you keep writing. Because I know, I can tell when I see talent, I can tell Sean Elwood has talent. But C.S. James, man, with his main novel, that was great. Fright Filter was so much fun. Please, I'm begging you guys, if you want something different, if you want content out there in the world that you prefer compared to the typical crap you see at like Barnes & Noble or whatever, invest in something like this. Buy this kind of book. Get people interested in people like Chris or the guy who made Fright Vision, Culliver Krantz, or whatever his name is. I'm sorry, I can't get the name right. Invest in people like that. Buy their books. Appreciate those books. Read the books. Talk about them. Make videos about them. Stuff like that. You're going to change the community and get more people interested in this subgenre if you do that. And I'm telling you, man, you're going to miss out if you don't read Fright Filter. I know I've raved about this for like 20 minutes, but it was a doozy. It was a doozy. It surprised me. It really did. And I wanted to be as thorough as possible what I loved and didn't like about times of this book. It was a blast. So anyway, I'm done rambling on. I hope you pick it up. I think you'll enjoy it. Again, 4 out of 5 stars for me. It would be higher, but that last short story I have to include in my rating. I think it kind of brings it down just a little bit. Just a little bit. It wasn't a bad short story. I get the idea. I think the message is really great. I think C.S. James' actual message in the full Fright Filter book is fantastic. I think kids need more messages like that. So good. So good. I think Stein, a lot of the time in Goosebumps or Fear Street or any of that stuff, even though I haven't read any Fear Street, he kind of avoids messages and themes. There can be themes in there, but not like straight up a message to make you think about something, to kind of change your life. Maybe in Haunted Mask, that's about it. But not typically. Not typically. He's usually writing for entertainment value, which is great. If you can do that well, do it. Forget the messages. But Chris clearly wanted to do something a little bit different, and it worked. It really, really worked. So check it out on that alone, anyway. What are your thoughts if you've read this first Twisted book to leave you shook? Put that down in the comment section down below. I would love to hear what you have to say about that. If you've read this and Toy Horror Story, or just the second book, excuse me, please let me know what you think about all those down below. I'd love to hear what you have to say about that as well. I'm so stoked to get to book number 2. I'm so stoked about that. You have no idea. I'm not going to read it right now. I'm going to take a little while more, read some more Goosebumps books, maybe 5 or 6, and then come back around and read book 2 at some point. But book 3 is coming out supposedly soon. I don't know if it's going to be sometime this year or maybe early next year. I don't really know. Everybody's kind of busy with their lives right now. But, man, I'm stoked. I'm really stoked. I can't wait to see the cover on that one, too. Anyway, thank you guys for watching. Check it out. Fright Filter. God bless you guys. Goodbye.